Hello, my name is Shaheen. I am the head honcho and chief troublemaker over at Webupon, and this is our very first Chalk Talk Saturday, where we break down the complex topics in marketing into digestible pieces. This is probably going to be a longer one, but who knows who will actually watch it. So this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, essentially the beginner's guide to advanced SEO. We can break SEO into multiple tactics and strategies, and things can apply differently across markets. So there's a variety of topics that you can really cover within the space. But something that's very near and dear to my heart, essentially, is what are some core topical areas, some core principles that aren't really going to change in the digital marketing world over time. So in the SEO space, I think there are really 6 core things that we have to think about and sort of work around as we exist within the digital marketing space, and more specifically in the SEO space. So the very first principle that I constantly think about is, what are Google's actual existential threats? So I think within the SEO space, there's a variety of pull factors, right? So we're pulling the market in a certain direction because of the things that we're doing. At the same time, Google is pushing us in a certain direction, right? They want us to be a certain kind of way. They've been talking about creating great content for years and years. And there's a reason why they want to create great content, and it's because they're essentially a search engine with a monopoly on the market, right? So they control a vast amount of the market, and even though that's the case, they obviously are going to have existential threats over time. So the Amazons, the Walmarts, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Alexa, Siri, they're going to be existential threats to develop over time. So the threats that Google is facing at any given moment are going to help shape what are the things that an SEO is going to focus on within the search algorithm as it gets applied, right? So the first thing you can look at is e-com. Google is sort of winning search, right? We think of it as a monolith. In between the Google product and YouTube, they have a massive amount of searches, with Facebook having number 2. But if you look at the e-com space, obviously Amazon is a huge competitor, and Walmart with the acquisition of Jet is probably going to turn into quite a formidable opponent. So the Google response to that over time has been to sell shopping ads, which are the little carousel of products at the very top of search, and then to also essentially force us to create better content. So this is actually huge because it prevents a massive opportunity for a lot of digital marketers, right? In my world, I can leverage content right now because it's essentially overvalued within the Google algorithm. And that's something that they're going to sort of force and push us to, and we're going to meet the demand. And obviously, the people that do meet the demand are going to benefit. So think about Wirecutter that got acquired by the New York Times, and the companies that don't are going to suffer as a result. Another sort of existential threat is just influence, right? So Google is very helpful because it's very informative, but there isn't necessarily a need for information if people are spending a lot of their time on these other platforms, right? So Google makes its money from selling ads, it makes its money from having the best answers, but if the focus, if the buying interest is really over here, think about how people make sort of like these Pinterest mood boards for big life events like weddings. If Instagram is taking all the influence and all the interest, and obviously there's a huge market now in paying influencers, that's going to negatively affect Google's overall grip on the commerce market within the United States and more broadly speaking, just digital advertising. Now, obviously, if I made this video 3 months ago, I would have talked about how Google Plus was, in shambles, and they've subsequently folded since the security threat they had 2 years ago, or a year ago. Given that, this is probably a space where they've sort of ceded control. There's not a lot they can do outside of potentially making an acquisition of Snapchat. Microsoft owns LinkedIn. So this is a space where they're going to suffer in coming years. I think as far as SEO goes and are concerned about the algorithm, obviously the authorship was important a couple of years back. Probably not going to be a big focus, but I think that where this is translated is when you look at the search quality rater guidelines, they're basically coming down to this model of, do you have authority? Are you trustworthy? And in our space, I think that then means that we need to focus on having a legitimate presence in here. We need to focus on looking legitimate in order to perform, and that's been the case for a number of years, right? And then I think the final thing that we should all be concerned about is sort of just the AI specter. There's going to come a day where you don't ask really Google anything, that it doesn't know. It's going to already know what the best content answer is. It's probably going to provide it directly. So for SEOs and content marketers as an industry, more broadly speaking, I think that we have a time limit. How long that is, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years, 10, or a decade, or two, there's really no way to tell. But you look at products like Alexa from Amazon and Siri from Apple, and obviously Google has their own alternative. These are the existential threats that they're facing. So when I think about the future of SEO, the reason why I'm sort of talking about these 6 principles, this is something I really sort of keep in my mind all day long, right? Because I'm looking for the next moment where something's going to shift in the overall landscape, as it did with their awarding of high quality content such that they could sell shopping ads next to it. And that's really an area that any SEO can exploit if you're willing to do the work. So the second fundamental principle that every digital marketing agency, every SEO is going to deal with is the balancing of needs. So there's always going to be specific user needs, right? The people that are searching at the end of the day are going to do so in a specific way, and our site is going to need to actually be able to fulfill that search demand. To me, on the flip side, there's the client beliefs, right? So clients are going to have goals, they're going to have sort of ego draws in certain instances, and they're also going to have a particular language in the way that they talk about things. And then there's really just the ranking optimization of the page, what most people sort of traditionally think about as SEO, right? Am I doing the things on the page and off-site that are going to help me rank? And then I think most importantly is just, can we rank? People often don't really think about the fact that there's an ideal demand curve, which I'll get into shortly, for how you can actually perform and how you should optimize your site so that you're being efficient. Now, these 4 forces are always pulling against each other in my mind. So no matter what the market is, no matter what the SEO tactics are, you're always going to be essentially balancing these 4 factors, right? The ability to rank versus how well you've optimized, what users actually want, and if you can fulfill that need. So, very common example, if someone just types in backpack, they probably want to see a couple hundred backpacks. If they type in red leather backpack, it's probably going to be a very specific query, and you may or may not be able to match that, right? And then it's also getting sort of fought at from the client. So, the client may not care because they just want to sell more backpacks, but you're always going to be sort of stuck in this 4-part gravity zone where you have to fight against these various factors that are pulling at an SEO campaign or even on a more micro level, one particular piece of content on the site. The third principle is what I would call the expected correlation. So any algorithm is going to be created by humans, and obviously Google has moved more and more towards an AI-driven model, but we can expect a search engine or any algorithm to want a particular kind of designed model. So if you look at how Google crawls sites, the reason why we're still talking about site architecture in 2018 and 2019 and beyond, and the reason why you can still gain SEO benefit from basic fixes, if your sitemap's terrible, that'll still matter in 2018, is because there's an expected design of the site, right? There's an interlink pyramid across the site where you're going to have the homepage, and then you're going to have the category pages and the contact pages, and then you're going to have individual product pages or blog pages, right? There's a pyramid that develops that Google expects, and any search engine essentially expects, right? So, and on that pyramid, as you go up, the most interlinked 2 pages, the home page, for example, which should be the most interlinked 2 page, sometimes contact us page, is going to have, but the home page is really going to have the most ranking potential because it is the best page on the site, and it's also generally going to correlate with the most links because your homepage is typically going to get the most links just because you get it through social and people reference your brand and not one specific product. So for a variety of reasons, you're going to have this sort of demand curve that's coming off of the top level of the site where you have the most inlinks, and then down to these lower level products where, if you have 1,000 products, you're really not going to be able to expect that all 1,000 of them are going to get referenced in one nice write-up that you got in a publication. right? So as we are higher in the site, we ought to expect higher site traffic from them, right? Your homepage is going to have more traffic than other pages, generally speaking, and blogs, notwithstanding, where they may land in this hierarchy, you're typically going to see people landing on the homepage, going to a category page, and then going down to an individual product or just service page, right? So your ranking potential, your ability to rank for any high volume term is going to be higher on the higher end of the site and lower on the lower end, both because we expect this distribution of backlinks where the homepage gets more, but also because the overall inner structure of the site is modeled in that exact same fashion. So where this really plays out is as far as the needs of meeting market demand go. So I'll use the traditional marketing funnel here. We can argue about the user journey and all that, but just for the usefulness of this heuristic, we have the tofu, the mofu, the bofu, the top of funnel traffic on down to the bottom of funnel traffic, right? And typically where people run into issues with SEO campaigns is you should expect a distribution on your site where your blog pages are essentially targeting your top of funnel traffic, and your category pages are essentially targeting your middle of funnel traffic, and your products are hitting your bottom of funnel traffic, right? So, a blog post could be, 16 essential back to school gear items for a college kid, right? That's a top of funnel blog post. It's not necessarily a product purchase yet, potentially, but it could be one, right? And then a category page should be leather backpacks, or laptop backpacks, or all the other product variants that you could have as a site that sells backpacks, right? So that's slightly more engaged traffic, but it's not really high revenue generation traffic just yet. And then once you get down to individual products, that's where you should really be thinking about the bottom of the funnel, right? So, we've gone from back to school essentials on the blog on down to, I want an 18-inch laptop backpack for gaming that has space for all my peripherals. It's a highly specific product query, and they're very, very close to buying at the end of that funnel. Now, where this gets interesting in my mind is people often conflate this model of how a site should essentially operate, and you find people optimizing for product queries on the category page, or essentially category queries on product pages, and it's just a mess. So when you break down a site, you should expect to have this distribution of traffic, right? Where we're going to stack our high traffic pages, and as we go lower within the funnel, bad analytics tracking notwithstanding, and things getting misattributed just to the checkout page, we're going to expect our profitability to increase as the individual traffic on a page is lower, right? So again, highly unspecific traffic at the very top of the funnel. People are just interested in what to buy their kids when they go back to school, right? And then you go down to a category, I'm still shopping, but again, the profitability value of that visit is a little bit higher. And then when I get down to an actual product and I have an idea, and obviously that traffic may just come in from search engines directly low on the site hierarchy, but once I'm here, you're essentially talking about a highly profitable search query. So there needs to be a market demand that's met with any SEO campaign, right? If you're not thinking about an ideal distribution when you're trying to balance these four forces that are always affecting your SEO campaign, when you're dealing with these existential threats that Google is always managing, and that's going to then affect how they roll out algorithms across the board, you need to balance all those things and be thinking about the fact that on your site hierarchy, there's going to be an optimal targeting of the actual keywords that are sort of mapped to the funnel and the actual page hierarchy of the site as we go down from the home page to the individual products. So to me, where it then gets interesting is if you look at keyword traffic and quality, there's a lot that you can draw from sort of traditional economic models that have been around forever, or a lot of optimization models with sales, right? So if you take any keyword group, we can just stick with the backpack example in this case. As the keyword traffic goes up, you're going to expect that the actual sort of dollar value per person is going to get a little bit lower as you go. So when we're just talking about the backpack, right, that's a super high volume term, but it's so general, you know, it's a top of funnel or middle of funnel query depending on your site structure, that you're going to expect the average visitor value. It might take 30 people for one of them to buy. You're going to expect a low value, right? But when we're actually talking about this highly specific search of, you know, 17-inch gaming laptop backpack, right? You're going to expect low relative keyword traffic, but an actual high revenue search query. And by the same token, the interesting thing that emerges is as your keyword traffic gets higher, you're going to expect higher ranking difficulty, right? From one side, just because there's going to be a million sites that sell backpacks, right? Are we talking about outdoor? Are we talking about fashion, high quality leather? Are we talking about utility, right? And then but as you go lower on these keyword traffic groups that are going to exist within, let's say, the backpack category, you know, it's going to be a little less difficult to rank. It's not necessarily a direct, you know, it's not going to be massively different necessarily, right? Because there could be a lot of competition around gaming laptops. But you're generally going to expect that as the keyword traffic accelerates upwards, the actual difficulty of ranking for the term is going to increase. And that's where a lot of people get into trouble, right? So, you know, they may or may not have their site correctly structured. They may or may not have balanced the user's needs with the customer's needs, with actual ranking optimization, with the question of, you know, can we rank for this term? They may not have done that, but they're still going to be dealing with this situation where if you just come out of the gate swinging and you start optimizing for a head term because, you know, the client maybe has said so that's kind of an ego issue, right, back here with the balance, or because you're sort of wet behind the ears and you think that it's a good idea to just go and optimize for the highest traffic term, you're really going to shoot yourself in the foot, right? So if there isn't a good match with what you're able to rank for on this difficulty line and where you're actually going to be able to sell product, that's where people really shoot themselves in the foot as far as an SEO campaign goes. So the sixth principle is really profitability optimization in my mind, right? So there's many algorithms out there, and there's more and more that are going to develop, right? Spotify has an algorithm, Apple Music has an algorithm, Amazon has an algorithm. There's all these algorithms. But on any algorithm, we're going to expect this exact trend and relationship. As the traffic of any keyword or particular query goes up, we're going to expect the dollar value per person of whoever's searching to go down, right? Because they're a less engaged, less informed consumer that's higher up on the actual sales funnel. So the job of any SEO, in my mind, in 2018 and beyond, the part that's really not going to go away is there's going to be some profitability curve, right? So we're going to expect low traffic, high revenue. You know, you might get 10 searches a month, but they're worth a couple $100 versus you get a couple thousand searches a month, but they're only worth a few cents, you know, relative per person. We're going to expect some sort of curve where we then want to optimize within, right? And the job of the SEO or anyone sort of decomposing or sort of analyzing what a algorithm is doing is to interpret what on my site structure or of all the ranking factors that are involved, how can I optimize those and find a particular place to play in, right? So if you're a new entrant into a market, let's say you're a completely new backpack company, you want to find some sub-niche, right? You want to find the 17-inch gaming laptop communities and the people that are really, really into that, and you want to sort of exploit that small little sub-niche. And then over time, you really want to move into the higher value realms, right? You don't want to come out and start playing in an area where you're never going to be able to rank and you're never going to be able to perform. At the flip side, you know, if you're a medium-sized business you're still in a situation where you're going to make more money if you move your market over here, because you're missing out on the high revenue, low traffic queries, than if you were just to immediately jump over to the high traffic queries. So in the SEO world, things are likely going to change, but of these 6 principles, there's always going to be some existential threat or pull factor from Google or Amazon or whatever the sort of standing algorithm of the day is that you're looking at. There's always going to be some set of client needs and user needs and our ability to rank in that algorithm. And there's always going to be some expected correlation, right? So the algorithm, if it's created by humans or robots, it's still going to have to analyze the existing market out there and make some determinations. And there's still going to be some sort of marketing funnel, right? Because at the end of the day, if humans are buying things, they're still going to be less informed at the top of the funnel and more informed at the bottom. And this model basically allows you to think about your business and where on this actual organization of traffic you can optimize for profitability. So, good luck.